Buenos días, estudiantes de español. ¿Qué tal? Yo soy Caro de Pura Buena Onda Conversational Spanish. And for some reason, I get really inspired to chat with you guys when I am out walking my dog. But I was just doing a video and it started to rain a little bit. So I decided to get in my car. So I'm about to drive off to work, but I have something on my mind that I want to talk to you about. So there's a conversation that comes up a couple times a year, and it's about students who feel that they've reached a plateau when they're in level B2. So B2 is intermediate 2. So for us, B2 is the second of the third level of intermediate, but for most schools, it is the last level of intermediate. So most schools have A1, A2 for beginners, B1, B2 for intermediate, and C1, C2 for advanced. We have A1, 2, 3, B1, 2, 3. So anyway, most people get stuck in B2, whether they're taking classes with us or anybody else. This is where people tend to get stuck in languages and not just Spanish. So the way that I see it is there's only two ways to advance past that. But before we talk about that, what I want to talk to you about is, do you really need to? Do you really want to? Have you really given it some thought? Because everyone says, I want to be fluent. That's just normal. When people want to learn a language, I would say 95% of people say, I want to be fluent. Other people just say, I just want to be able to get by. So why do you want to be fluent? What does fluency mean to you? What will you be able to do with the language if you're fluent? Do you need to do those things with the language? So that's the first question to ask yourself is, do I really want to or need to be fluent? Because fluency really truly means being able to, for example, do your entire job in the target language, let's say Spanish in this case. So being able to do your entire job in Spanish, is that necessary? Is that something that you want to do? For example, being able to have very serious discussions about politics and religion and other controversial subjects. Is that necessary? Is that something that you want in your life? Another thing, for example, that you would do if you were fluent is, it just completely escaped me. I had three things in my mind that I was thinking about. For example, being able to go to the university in that language. So if these are not things that are necessary in your life, you don't need to do them. You don't need to be fluent. So that's just one thing that I want to put out there, is that a lot of people, their idea is, their goal is to get to complete fluency. And for most people, it's just not necessary. I'm not saying that you shouldn't try it. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't move past B2. All I'm saying is, have you given some thought to why you want to be fluent? And is it really necessary? And is that something that you really want to dedicate the time to? Because it does take a tremendous amount of time and effort to get there. So that's number one. So if you have decided, you know what, I want to get past B2. Maybe I don't want to get to C2, but maybe I want to get to C1, advanced 1. The way that I see it is there's only two ways to go about this. One would be to go live in a foreign country or go do a very long immersion course, because getting past B2 takes a tremendous amount of effort, as I mentioned. So it would take at least a minimum of 1 month of complete immersion, minimum. And that depends on how quickly you learn the language, how much time you put into it. Like if you end up going to an immersion school and your roommate speaks English and you're speaking English outside of school, that's not going to help. That's not going to be enough. But 24/7 in the target language for a month is enough for some people. For others, they need 3 to 6 months, maybe a year. So usually not a year, but 3 to 6 months for some people. Anyway, so that's one way to do it. But if you're not going to go to a foreign country so that you can get past that level, and you're going to put the effort in here, right here, wherever it is that you live, then there's two things that you need to consider. They're really important. So number one, you need to be doing you need to do the right things. For example, a lot of people in B2 are still doing Duolingo. I have nothing against Duolingo. I think it's fantastic. But at B2, that's not going to help you advance. It may help you to reinforce some vocabulary. You'll learn a few new things, but it's not going to help to get you in that mindset, in that advanced level mindset where you're actually thinking in Spanish, where you're actually choosing your words, your sentence structure in a way that a native speaker would. That is not going to help you. It may help you with some vocabulary. It may help you improve your preterite tense or whatever. But it's not going to actually help you get to an advanced level. It's just not. It's not enough. It's just not enough. So That's one example. Another example would be News in Slow Spanish. I love News in Slow Spanish. I listen to News in Slow Italian. I think it's phenomenal, but my level in Italian is A2. So that makes sense for me. It doesn't make sense for a person in B2 that wants to get to the next level. If you just got into B2 and you're just trying to get to a higher level of B2, a more advanced level of B2, at the top of B2, sure, absolutely. But if you've been in B2 for a while and you feel like you've hit a plateau and you want to move forward, News in Slow Spanish is not going to help you ever going to get past that level. What you need to listen to is the news that is meant for native speakers. So what I'm trying to say is that if you want to get out of B2, you have to be willing to be uncomfortable. When you watch movies, when you watch movies, no subtitles, not even in Spanish. You need to develop your ear. You're trying to get to an advanced level of the language, but you're still approaching it as if you are an intermediate student. But if you want to get to a higher level, you have to approach it like a native speaker. You have to put yourself in the same positions that native speakers would, and it's so uncomfortable. So uncomfortable to not understand like half of what you're listening to. It's really uncomfortable, but that's what you have to do. It's super, super important. So that's number one. It's the things that you do. And number two, it is becoming obsessed with the language, in my opinion. You have to be obsessed to move past B2. It's no longer enough to study an hour a week. You have to read, for example, if you're reading the news, you read it in Spanish. If you are listening to podcasts, you listen in Spanish. If you're watching TV shows, you watch shows in Spanish. A really good amount of your life has to be in that language in order to be able to advance to an advanced level, to move up to an advanced level. You can no longer just study the language. You have to be obsessed. Now, if that's not for you, that's okay, because B2 is an excellent level. It is. It really, truly is. But if your goal is to get to C1 or C2, you're going to have to make sure that you're doing the right things that are aimed towards native speakers, and also that you're putting in the effort that you need, which really means being obsessed. So I'm going to give you one example. We have a student. Her name is Jackie. Hola, Jackie. I don't know if you're listening to these or not. But Jackie she's freaking amazing. She is absolutely amazing. She started with us in an intermediate level. Her level is C2 now, so she's completely fluent. Why? Well, Jackie takes 2 classes a week, every week. She's been coming to classes for maybe 10 years now, and she's very, very dedicated. She also got a job volunteering in an organization where she had to use her Spanish. I think it was 3 days a week before. This was a couple of years ago. She started doing that. Guess what she's doing now? She's a medical interpreter, English and Spanish. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. But this woman is obsessed. She's obsessed with speaking Spanish. She never speaks English to me, ever, ever, ever. She's always speaking Spanish, unless it's something that we need to work out business-wise. But otherwise, she's always speaking Spanish. Her emails are in Spanish. All her communication is in Spanish. She volunteers in Spanish. She does everything. She reads in Spanish. She does everything necessary. She comes to class twice a week. This is a person who is obsessed with becoming fluent. And that's why she's reached fluency. So anyway, I hope that helped. So first of all, I hope that it helped you to realize, do I want to be fluent or not? Is that really something that I want to dedicate my time to? Or am I very happy reaching a mid to high intermediate level of Spanish, because I know that I can communicate in 95% of situations and I don't need more than that. So I'm happy with that and I want to maintain that. Or no, I want to be fluent. Like, I want to be able to do everything in my target language. So that's the first decision you need to make. And then number 2, if you're willing to be uncomfortable, to do the things that you need to do to get to that next level. So to make sure that you're actually doing the right things, and then also to become obsessed with the language. So a lot to think about. And let me know. I'm curious. What do you think after this video? What are you leaning towards? I'd love to know. Ciao.